Greetings, everybody, to my December non-dual astrology forecast. Wow, interesting times, hey? So, yeah, what I'm going to do a little bit of is welcome you into the space for this transmission. And if you're new to this channel, just we have a longer explanation of what non-dual astrology is. But for me, it's like a tantric dance between different systems to help us to see these insights that can bring us a sense of truth in some sort of way. And we work with the Galactic Mayan calendar, Vedic astrology, and the traditional Mayan calendar at this time. So I also just want to tell you a little bit more about what's coming up at the moment, especially just in case you hear this and it's the last few days of November. And this is going to lead into what I'm going to start bringing, I hope, some downloads to you from, which is a carryover from November's energy into now. And so I didn't put it up on the slide, but we have an ancestral course, Ancestral Healing as Sacred Activism course that we've actually postponed the first tutorial of until the 1st of December because the time is so powerful, I feel, to do this work. And we're just getting bombarded with signs. And every day we have new people signing up for this course. And therefore, some of you may have seen my November transmission. I really talked about this ancestral portal that was very much a feature of how the celestial bodies were working last month. November is always that sort of month anyway. And we basically had the celestial bodies showing up to really accentuate that this is the time for that work. And as you may know, in Western astrology, Pluto just went into Aquarius a couple of days ago at the time of making this. And this is going to be a massive time of change. And I think that a lot of people have been realizing that some of the old paradigms around them can't be there solely. Okay, I don't want to say we have to dismiss everything that exists. I think that that's too radical. But I know that in the mirroring, I kind of went on a bit of a pilgrimage of sorts and was in many countries over a short space of time. And there was a lot of mirroring, which was basically that the feminine principle that is residing within all of us needs to step forth bravely. And we need to honor this yin receptivity. We need to create these more synarchic, horizontally formed communities. And this is often the role of the matriarch in a society. It doesn't have to be a woman, but certainly a sense of let's get this cosmic hustle on the road. Let's get everything running. Let's step forth boldly. It has come. It's come to a point of rising where that which only represents the outmoded constructs is just not able to exist in our systems anymore alone. So that has brought up a lot for people. And what's within that is a lot of ancestral energy. A lot of the things that have kept us submissive or subordinated or full of shame or in some sort of repulsion to our own feminine principle within. And there's something that's unapologetic in its nature that knows that we have to strive forward. We have to leave something behind. And that's been very, very prevalent for many people. And this is this term that I believe is so strong. And we've got a free transmission up on my YouTube about it, about sacred activism being very much a key buzzword in 2025. So just if you subscribe to my channel, you'll find that information up there. So yeah, so if you're feeling it's time to honor, acknowledge, and release from the shackles of the ancestors, we have an amazing course that's running. It's both a course with teachings, it's an experiential deep dive, and it also brings weavings and tools from very diverse cultures and settings, from psychotherapy to shamanism to Sangoma lineages to creation stories to quantum work to epigenetics, morphogenetics. And I'm so excited because even at the time of making this, the cosmic nudge to go deeper now into opening that space for our students has come. So if this somehow is speaking to you, time is of the essence. If you want to be part of that container, we will run the course again. But I do believe that people who are already on their healing path, their path of awakening, are feeling the urgency of doing this work. And this is ahead of a larger collective portal for that work taking place in 2026 and 2027. And I'm here in Mexico at the moment, in a very sacred area, where we are having meetings about what's called the Fuego Nuevo in 2027, the new fire. And we're also looking at what does the new water represent as well? What is our new flow? What's our new epigenetic truth? And yeah, there's a lot coming to the surface, especially in these sacred lands, for this this renovation, this new foundation that we're setting in place. And so a lot of stuff is very stuck right now around us because karmically it's not the new fire yet, it's not the Fuego Nuevo just yet, but some of us who are going to be there to help to pave the way into what a more Aquarian society looks like, we are the ones who have to do the work now, because the way that evolution works and the way the celestial bodies work is it's got an intelligence to it. And if everybody was to go through an awakening process and suddenly start remembering and purging all at the same time, it would be pandemonium. So it's very important to get the people who hear the call ready, okay? Because this is going to be big, and next year is going to be big. And therefore, that's why I just want to let you know about some of the offerings we've got available. I give a lot of contexts in my book, Dakini Weaving, Keys to the Golden Age. It's available on Amazon in ebook and in hard copy. And again, if you're listening to this in the right time, we have a Black Friday sale. So if you are wanting to give the book to some loved ones for Christmas, if you celebrate that sort of thing, or if you're trying to pick up a copy and you don't have much cash flow, there's a little reduction there, even though it was a lot of work to write the book and many, many decades of weaving and service. So yeah, so we want to really honor that this feels like time. And in the following week or two, there are going to be a couple of podcasts up with Tina from Pilgrims of the Goddess and with Ashira Miriam Rose. So yeah, so you're going to see quite a lot about these themes that are coming. There's lots of free material there to help you get on your pathway for these coming big times. We are also offering very deep in utero processing work, soul surgery, ancestral work. Madalena and I are offering 2025 readings and forecasts. And if you want to find out a little bit about 2025, we'll also be offering some free sessions around that. And there will also be some larger tutorials available from January up till April. Okay. So we also, if you're feeling, wow, I feel this new priestess arising within me, I feel there's something more substantial, less superficial I need to bring into the world. The gateway for that is really opening in a deeper way in January. And we're going to be running a journey. And if you want to know more, to get yourself lined up, this is going to be very, very powerful. And we're going to be running a real-time immersion, okay, with pranayama, yoga, high teachings, and astrological insights that are very unique because they're from this non-dual way. So there's a lot coming up. And this leads into just the general astrology. I'm just going to move my little thing. I never know if you can see my little picture. There you go. And hopefully you can see the slide. So a little saying that we've had for quite some time is soup of the month. You know, sometimes you go to a restaurant and it's soup of the day. And so for years, I've been threatening to make soup of the month transmissions, but just the reality is that with our little school and with all our other service, it's a challenge for me to make all these extra transmissions. But I just really wanted to presence the immensity of the possibilities that we have with us at the moment, and that the the eclipses that we've just come out of, I think the clarity is starting to land of that which we may need to depart from. I've certainly had a little bit of a process recently with realizing there was something I had to take a step back from in order to actually assist that discipline and branch more in the future. And then I had it confirmed to me through my astrology and through some readings. And it will show up differently for different people, but there is a sense of some things just being too outmoded for us to make it our only endeavor. Okay. And with that, there's a sense of optimism now. There's been a little bit of a shamanic journey for many people where there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of ancestral energies making us feel like we have to put up with things, or we have to do this, we have to do that. And we're not the full picture yet. We are not the full completed portrait of what we're going to be next year. But there's a sense of optimism that some change is coming. And this is also accentuated through Pluto just coming into Aquarius in Western astrology. Pluto, planet of transformation and often very hidden journeys. It's coming into Aquarius. Aquarius is the change maker. Aquarius is the rebel. It moves out of the old mold. And so I think that what we've had is a buildup of energy around that, because in many ways I see tropical Western astrology as kind of like the afflictions and the trials and tribulations that show up for us in our here and now. It's not maybe so much the soul marker, because the rishis really brought through those soul markers in Vedic astrology. But in terms of how we're showing up right now, I think there's now this sense of the disruptor, the change maker, the need to transform that we're suddenly feeling more positive about. And that's why all this ancestral material that may be coming up for us, it's just a really fertile ground to receive a lot of insights and to have very good outcomes to do this. Pluto and Aquarius will, of course, hit everybody differently depending on the placement of their ascendant and other planets. But yeah, this is a significant period of time. What we've been transforming in for the last 15 years is now going to be changing for the next 19 or 20 years. And there's a sense of letting us land into that and to prepare the way for what's going to be big in 2025. And a lot of key astrologers are heralding 2025. As you know, the follow-up to COVID, we had COVID busting us into certain things. Some people didn't complete with that. They're still stuck. There are going to be big disruptions, big changes. A lot of people are very, very disappointed with government systems, financial systems, medical systems, legal systems, their own workplace, blah, 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 all of those things. And as a new portfolio is going to come for each of us, it's really important. What we have a tendency to do because of the yang over programming that exists is that we often we think, oh, Pluto came into Aquarius, now I'm going to do this thing. And actually, the true way that natural law works is that we have the dreaming phase, the slowing down, the receptive phase. And so the celestial bodies, of course, know this. And the way the cycles and the intricacies work is that this is all taking place for us by being slowed down. And we have this massive Mars slowed down energy until June next year. It doesn't mean Mars is fully retrograde the whole time, but Mars is in its not optimized situations by being in Gemini and Cancer in Vedic astrology, where it's just not great, okay? And we talked about that last month. So people are finding there can be a sense of not having as much energy right now. And also sometimes things feeling a little bit overwhelming. And the intelligence of this is the planets are saying, Please don't think you know what's coming next. Please don't jump the gun. Please don't waste time, because if you do things now that are too extreme, it's just not going to, it's not going to suit the climate of the times that we're coming into. And this is why there is a sense of death within many people, of this process that people are going to be in, because we are really being asked to slow down. And so we're already in Mercury retrograde, and that's going to be like that until 15th of December. Then we have Mars retrograding from the 6th of December until late February. It's already sitting in Cancer, and we'll talk about that a little more later. And then we presently also, we just came out of Saturn retrograde, and we have Jupiter retrograde. So the early part of December, we have 3 planets in retrograde. So for me, this is a very strong marker of settling in time and slowing down around many of the things that may expand us, our communications, our paperwork, our drive, our ambition, all of these things. And so Mars is actually in Pusha. Pusha is all about nourishment. So there could be a sense of needing to do self-care, and a sense of that sometimes being thwarted and pushing and pulling between doing and then running out of steam. So if you're having problems with your stamina, this is a collective thing right now. I think that everybody who's about my age thinks that they're dying from their perimenopause or menopause symptoms. And I think women of our sort of age do feel it in a way, because in a way also it's a time for women to actually really, really get in touch with their cosmic yin and their crone energy. So we often think like, oh my goodness, my herbs are not working, or I'm so broken. But I think it's also because what a dear sister said recently at a meeting. She said, the sooner people realize that women between 45 and 55 are the new power holders, and the sooner that women step up, the better. And that doesn't mean being despots and power hungry. That's the kind of shadow feminine. But there's something that's particularly for people in female bodies, because we've had more of the programming of the imbalance to deal with in our physical vessel. There's something, it takes us to the ultimate yin and feeling absolutely broken. But there's a reclamation of the dreamer, the crone, the one who weaves everything into existence. And we can all step into that energy. That is there for the taking. But I think that this is why for people maybe in their 40s and 50s, it seems particularly brutal. So do look after yourselves. Do know that you've got time. I think this is something that's very prevalent for a lot of people, is that there's a sense we know we're here to help to build something amazing. And then we have these times where we run out of steam and we just want to loll around and take 10 baths a day or whatever it may be. And then there's this sense of shame, like we're letting the team down. Oh, I'm not doing my bit. I'm too slow. And actually, the slowing down is the reclamation, and it's from the slow place that we knew is going to come about. Rushing around, doing things badly. It can sometimes tame the ego because you just can't overthink things, but it usually means that there's very sloppy delivery. And this is where sometimes we deviate from maybe some of the more masculine systems where they're trying to make everybody do all the time. There's a tremendous amount of accuracy that we can have in our efforts when we actually have the balance of the yin dreaming state and receiving and learning more about the coding and then stepping forth into action. So in a way, we're having this very excessive push-pull of yin and yang right now, manifesting for all of us. And there may be a sense of frustration, but that frustration, if don't worry, we're really being held, tied down a little bit so that we don't create the wrong prototype. We do not know exactly how these advancements are going to occur for all of us, how light we may feel, how we will see the world, how we will interact with the world when we have completed much more of this transformation. So it's very cool. And this is a time to also see what's not working, what needs to be maybe put to the side for now, And what do I need to work on behind the scenes? Retrograde times are amazing for tweaking things. It's usually we're getting a last stage of teachings from a certain bunch of karma. The universe wants us to get the codes, it wants us to understand, it wants us to implement. And so it gives us this review period so that then we can go into the next karmic situations with good insights and with a clean slate rather than carrying all the other stuff in. So there's a lot of review taking place. We might not feel like we're expanding very much right now. We may not feel totally dynamic. There might not be any new ideas coming through, and that's a good thing. Use this time to just focus on what you've got on your plate, knowing that you don't maybe have the energy to do too much, and just doing what you can. Of course, we also have solstice coming on the 21st of December. So for those of you in the global north, this is marking the shortest day. And so for many people, that's a celebration because people think, wow, it's going to be summer in 1 month. And then they spend the next 4 months feeling dismal about it not being summer remotely. And in the global south, of course, it's coming into the shortest night. And yeah, so we're all having this energetic shuffle. And and you know, for a lot of you, you'll be doing something at solstice. So it can be a good time to set your sights for the next chapter that's coming through. And yeah, let's move on. So in the traditional Mayan calendar, as I said in the November forecast, there was a sense of a lot of death, dissolve. And now I think a lot of us have had these processes, and there's this sense of deeper exuberance that we are on some sort of path and that we've had to make some sort of decision. For some people, I also want to say that sometimes there's not just one path. For a lot of people, and this is very similar to what's taking place with the eclipses, so we've got this Virgo Pisces axis. There's this sense of there's my spiritual woo-woo side, and then there's my 3D Muggles world side. And I think a lot of us are trying to find the middle way with that. And it's not complete yet. That batch of teachings is not complete. And I personally recently realized I was trying to bridge something too early. So I was trying to marry two very dear parts of all my work is pretty spiritual, you know. So, but there would be two different. There's my Dharma Stars work, and then there's my Dharma with Dzogchen work with Khenpo Rinpoche. And I realized that the bridge that I really want to make with those just wasn't ready. I had to honor each in its own place for now, and that there were things I have to accomplish with the demographic that I work with, and things that I have to support in the demographic that they work with, and to just be happy with those two things. And sometimes we try to homogenize everything. We try to say there's only one path. This is this thing that we see a lot of. There's a lot of war in the world because people are saying there's only one ideology, one God, one this, one that. And there may have been a sense of trying to work out something in our bodies and being in the last month. This thing of, you know, feeling like we're letting somebody down if we don't reconcile both things. And actually, it's okay to keep them separate, and it's okay to respect them totally, because we may bridge things later, but it's not quite time, and that's okay. So you may be finding some of the forks in your road, and you may be understanding in a sort of audit how much time you're giving to the different branches of the road. I personally find that Taurus time and Scorpio time are really good times to work for my energetic body, to know who I'm dealing with. I go into shamanic visioning, and I treat everything that comes in as sacred each 6 months of Taurus and Scorpio time, because both of those are very fixed signs. And as somebody who's quite empathic and multidimensional, I need to conserve my time for the road, the path that I'm on right now, that's going to change all the time, but so that I don't overgive in the wrong setting and burn myself out. So I do an audit every 6 months and look at like what's showing up as really central right now. And just, okay, it's like for this time, for this 6 months, I treat this as my priority. And what's not showing up so strongly, who was really showing up last 6 months and isn't around now? Okay, well, I don't need that so central. And I draw a little diagram and it just helps me to know where I'm going to put my energies. And then I review it. So it's very fair. And it's just so that I don't deplete myself. And so sometimes we'll say, so my road has a fork and I have to honor both sides. And by writing that down, it helps our energy body to be okay with having those two things. We don't have to have everything solved. But just say, for this moment, for this 6 months, I'm okay with this being the way this is. I'm not letting the team down. These two things don't interact. They don't understand each other. That's okay. You know, you might have a partner who doesn't understand your multidimensionality, but you know, you and your partner have an amazing time together with doing some really wonderful projects in another way. And you may have been trying for years to make those worlds work. And then you might realize, you know, right here, right now, this multidimensional purpose I have, that's still here. My partner's still here. And you know what? With the utmost respect, I'm going to let them be separate, but I love them both. Okay, so we're allowed to do that. So if you have been feeling like there's two paths, that's okay right now. It's okay. So coming more deeply into December, we come into Can. Can is the serpent. And in this system, Can is very strong energy. You know, serpents a very great deal about how we work with power. And in this system, it's seen as the beginnings of wisdom. Serpent energy, serpent has always been assigned as a totem to concepts of wisdom, but also our relationship to power and life force and sexuality and all sorts of things. And so there's this new sense of empowerment. And in a way, this audit we've had to do where we're going and this finding of the path is helping us to use our life force more wisely. And that's why with this depleted Mars energy, we're being urged to strip away from that which isn't really energetically working right now, so that we can utilize our sacred energy as much in the right way over these months. Because if you're in the global north, you're already having winter, and it's not summer for sure, not even in January, not even maybe until June. And with the Mars being the way it is, it is really, really vital that you spend these days right now just, you know, and doing things like if you do Kundalini yoga or work with Kriyas or pranayama, doing things to boost your prana and not taking on things that are going to whittle your energy away, and not going into relationships where it's just going to be kind of pointless energy wasting. Okay. And what's interesting is there's a sense of activating that. And then we come into T-Hax in the middle of the month. And T-Hax is like very strong truth energy. And this is the beginning of the healing. It's like an obsidian knife. It cuts through the illusion. It's a truth speaker. It's not going to mince its words. And there's a need for us to just get into our lane with truth, okay? And yeah, I think we're going to be landing with the essence of that, of what the eclipse season brought up for us, and how we're going to ride that, at least until the next eclipses. And then right at the end of the month and into early January, we're in Bats. And Bats is all about weaving time. So it's creating the new fabric, the new weaving. And this is very, very interesting, because as we come into the early dates in January, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be running a Venus-Saturn sacral chakra journey. And there's a sense that I see, because I'm seeing a lot of interesting Venusian activity in people's charts. And this actually is what brought me into this buzzword of the new priestesshood and the new Venusian gateway, because it's almost so subtle in the way the astrological bodies work, unless you know certain systems, that you wouldn't see it. And I really started to get these guidances from the celestial body about how this works. And the more I see and read people's charts who are already on a journey, wow, yeah, it's really big. So by the 10th of January, there's a sense of this new weaving that we're taking place in. And I don't think it's fully tangible just yet. But there is a deeper performative energy of us coming through. Bats is not shy. Like, look at this monkey, it's cheeky. And Bats is okay to be upfront again, and we'll have come out of Mercury retrograde. The retrospect has completed. So it's really interesting because we come out of Mercury retrograde around the 15th, and then we go straight into like this deeper truth. So whatever we've been whittling away, there's a directness, an ability to call it. I think before that, it's not formed enough. And then there's, as we cut away the crap and also come into the truth and the essence, then there's this possibility that some people may feel a little bit more positive about maybe, promoting something, putting their face on the internet, all of those things, because that more performative essence of ourselves is privileged under Bat's energy. So if we look at the Dreamspell calendar and what's going on, mirroring this journey we've had to find the pathway from the end of November into the 10th of December, we're coming into seed wave spell. And this is, of course, about flowering. Seed is not just seen as a seed. The picture that it is assigned, especially in the Mayan system, is like a bright yellow flower. Okay. And this is beginning new gestations, working beyond burdens. So there's a whole new template coming online. And this is like our Pluto Aquarius is landing. And I think that in the last couple of days, I think because we're doing our ancestral course, we're in a big energy. But I think that also it's almost like there's a dimensional shift that we're energetically under. And last night I got sounds coming through to signify a dimensional shift. And what is Pluto Aquarius? What is the data? Where I think our energy bodies are landing with this new cycle. And so this is how seed is working. But seed also marks the moving beyond the burdens. Seed is about what's flowering and what's decaying and what do we need to let go of. So this whole ancestral portal we're in, there's this sense of this new gestation and this moving into something new. And look at how timely it is with the other movements. From the 11th, and so what's wonderful is, so from the 11th, and then we have Mercury going direct halfway through, we come into Earth wave spell. And Earth is, of course, a great time to do earthwork. So if you're wanting to do ceremony on the solstice, you have beautiful, beautiful conditions to do that at this time, because doing ceremony on the earth, doing ritual, doing ceremony, these things is really, really beneficial at that time. And Earth also helps us to synchronize our body and our being into the rootedness with the ecosystem of that truth. So there's this gestation into this grinding in that we see. If we look back again, there's this letting the energy body come into its deeper truth. We're grinding in this new essence, these new frequencies. Then from late month, we're coming into dog wave spell, and dog is all about the heart, love, loyalty, service. And it also is about things like codependency and addiction, where we blur the boundaries between self and others and give our power away. And this is also something that we need to be examining in this new template. For one, Aquarius is very independent. Aquarius is the opposite of codependent. And we also have this marking of departure from just being the punch bag of our ancestors' afflictions, and to surveying where codependence, maybe through trauma, through necessity, was a default for our ancestors. This is something that's a very, very big code that we carry through. And there's a sense of us needing to examine what a world without codependency looks like. What is love and loyalty without codependency? Because this is a big one to crack. And this is, I think, why a lot of people are realizing they're bored of karmic relationships. They only want sacred coupling where there's actually a proper dharma to follow together. And so this examination rides through the ancestral line, and we're really being asked to step forward. And this is very much stepping into the Aquarian paradigm. If that wasn't enough, right now, at the time that I'm making this transmission, we are coming to the end of the Shushumna of the Dreamspell calendar. And the Shushumna is the central channel. The way the glyphs, the nawals, are laid out in the system, there are 260 days in the cycle. And the configuration is such that there are these galactic activation portal days that actually sit across the formation of those 260 day cycles in the shape of a double helix structure. And right in the middle of it is the central channel. And the central channel in yogic philosophy is where we transmute a lot, where we have to clear a lot of old samskaras, old karmic debris patterns, and where we move from just our lower patterning. So this is where codependency, jealousy, drama, power relation problems, all of those things reside. We then, once we are working with the optimized central channel, the portal to clear karma, to step forward into our dharma, and to actually become a higher vibrational being. This is all takes place through how energy rises and falls through the central channel. So it's been really interesting that we've been in this massive collective karma and moving through the old debris, that the stuff and sifting through what we can't take with us, because that's truly what's taking place on an energetic level. Okay. And then from the 30th of November, we're going to have 10 gap days. So these are where you have these signifiers of the double helix structure. And these portal days are where we can effect a lot of change of a quantum nature. So it's a great time to do quantum work. It's a great time to do ancestral work. It's a great time to dedicate healing beyond just yourself. And so this stepping forward, and for those of you who are doing things like our ancestral course, this mindful work over this time actually has this positive ripple effect that spans through the space-time continuum in a really positive way. And we won't be having such a series of 10 gap days back to back for many, many months, probably about 7 months. Okay, so this is amazing that this is all converging at this time. Okay, and then we're just going to move on to Vedic astrology. So, Ketu, which I didn't talk about at the time, but Ketu entered into Utara Phalguni Nakshatra in November. And Utara Phalguni is very generous. It's very interesting because Utara Phalguni is also one of the key matchmaking nakshatras. And Ketu is, of course, the karmic node of past life data and information. And of course, where this sits for you will mean it will bring a different batch of teachings than other people. But yeah, there's a sense of something around devotion, generosity, serving others. What is a meaningful relationship? These sorts of things are challenged in some ways. This can also be looking at how we do business, how we show up for others. This is a very genial energy, and it's seen as it can be a good guru teacher energy as well. And so there's something under review there. There's and if we're looking at it from a dating perspective, there can be things happening with people's relationships, and this is all poised again with things like the dog wave spell coming up, that what it is to be in relationship may be changing. And I think something about how we come into relationships without projection. And a lot of this again is ancestral, these little funny conditions, that people put in relationships. And I think that something is to rebirth over this period of time. And Ketu will be there for some time, but there's something rewiring there. And yeah, I'll probably talk about this along the way a little bit more, probably in one of my forecasts. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that Mars has been in Pusha. So this is all around nourishment and it's kind of a motherly energy. Yeah, and so there's this push-pull. We may need more nurturing and nourishment in this time. And it may be off and on. Like I have lots of drive now. I want to go to the spa. Okay. And just I'm trying not to become overwhelmed by that. That's all taking place. Also noteworthy is that Saturn, Lord of Karma, Lord of Time, Lord of Sacrifices and Hard Work, moved into Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra on the 25th. And we have had Saturn there before because Saturn retrograded back into its final little sojourn with Shatabhishak. And it's now come back forward into Purva Bhadrapada. And Purva Bhadrapada is, would I say I'm a fan? I don't know. Purva Bhadrapada for me is typifying a lot of what is out there in the world that is starting to perplex many people. And we could probably call it superficial woo-woo, okay? And this kind of ungrounded spirituality, people proclaiming themselves gurus without any training or any lineage recognizing them, this over monetizing of spirituality, this randy, sexy spirituality that exploits people. This always been a thing, but the teachings around the dualistic positioning that it brings in, which create a kind of quest that's about good and evil. And that's why it has this mask of like smiling and a not smiling. It's like good twin, naughty twin. So good twin, naughty twin is very important in mythology. It sits in many, many, many systems. And as such, the way we are programmed right now on the planet, we're very dualistically programmed. You know, it's kind of off or on, good or bad. A lot of people, read things like the COVID situation as a kind of dualistic battle between good and evil. And usually the higher truth is way beyond that, okay? And this is something, again, with this thing about there can be two paths and you don't have to have one singular truth from it. So this is playing out in the spiritual world in many ways. And this is also accentuated by Rahu sitting in Pisces. So there's quite a lot of delusional, excessive spirituality right now, and a lot of what we would call wrong view. And this serves a purpose because what's going to be happening next year is that the energy is going to migrate more deeply into its older brother, Uttar Bhadrapada. Because at the moment, self-serving spirituality is rife. And that's not really spirituality, but it's utterly self-serving. It's reduced. And a lot of spiritual materialism is shrouded as spirituality when it's actually materialism. And this is holding back the concerted effort because Aquarius is about change making and better societies and less vertically organized societies. And so Purva Bhadrapada and Saturn being there is bringing up this collective karma around duality, around exploiting through power, exploiting through shamanism, through tantra, however this is coming through. And of course, through the institutions that are failing. So there's this kind of good evil story. And even the fact that we've got, Donald Trump's just got in, and I'll talk about that later, but this is a cosmic mechanism, which actually his inauguration is landing right on the conjunction where we're going to be doing our Venus-Saturn journey. And so I've been talking about this. I've been trying to lead people into this for about a year now, because this is really big. And if you can understand, it's busting people through so that they get sick of this more superficial stuff. The gateway keeps opening through 2025 and through the trials and tribulations of 2025 that promise to be pretty big and life-changing. They necessitate the need for authenticity in the long run. And so we have that which is not authentic and that which is not grounded and that which is a little bit wobbly and wonky has to play its role. It has to play its part to push us into being so sick of that other thing that we really crave to help at the soup kitchen, to understand that being a priestess doesn't mean having really nice robes, but it actually means how much you can help everybody and everything, and how humbly you can do that. So Saturn's back. Saturn's here now doing its big Purva Bhadrapada mission. It was getting its last pieces of codes in Shadabhishak, and now here we go. It's like this is where the deeper kind of pummeling is going to keep going until about until definitely middle next year, where we have, a lot of the key shifts are going to be taking place in the first 6 months of next year. It's going to serve its purpose. So a lot of people feel very dualistic. They will feel maybe repulsed by certain things, or we may have to get sick of our own dualism in some way, trying to having overly strong opinions about certain things. And then we may have to have a little bit of madness with that. And then that's leading into this crescendo that really begins from mid-January and peaks in late March and then keeps going until late May. So, synthesis. Oh, it always does this. Sorry for my strange little button. Okay, so early in the month, we are prompted to continue the healing work, especially of these ancestral burdens that we have been feeling come to the surface. Just remember, we are changing, but it will take time. This is lifetimes converging within us. This is our ancestors. This is our past lives. It's a life work. At the very minimum, and that's a very big overstatement. It's a life work, or understatement. It's a life's work. So, but we have the tools. But just know that this will take time, and the evolutions of the planets is really helping us to do that this winter. Energies are not high because we are in a deep time of adjustment and preparation. However, already glimpses of a golden age are becoming more clear and tangible. There is an important dissolve we have to make. The residues and outmoded patriarchal constructs are falling away. We are experiencing that on a cellular karmic level, and that's why it may feel intense. It may feel weird in your energetic body. There's a lot lifting. This good and evil duality story and superficial spirituality come back. This is now in many ways for the final and highest karmic delivery. So I hope this helps you to step impeccably into December when we do know a little bit about how the bodies are working. It helps us to actually navigate and to be in the highest service. So I want to give gratitude to you for listening. Please do like, subscribe, and recommend this channel. We want to bring much wisdom and insight across to you to help you on your journey. And I want to give gratitude to the day keepers, the Mayan lands, to Jose Arguelles, and to the rishis and the celestial bodies, and to Ganesha, the patron deity of Jyotish, the science of light. Om Shrim Ganganapataye Namaha.